here with Jonathan London, and I hope the joy we've just had talking carries over to the actual interview. Jonathan London's got, you are the head honcho of Geekscape, and
Mhm.
which is in this world where everybody has something. I've known your name for a long time, but not necessarily directly familiar. But you've got a Kickstarter for a book called Super Action Man. So the
Mhm.
first issue. First of all, pitch it to me.
It is a political but not partisan sort of modern day GI Joe satire about a bull in a china shop type character, super action man, who's on a diverse team of American soldier superhero kind of characters, similar to like what you'd get in an '80s action movie, where you have a squad of specialists. So maybe they're one person's this like explosives expert, maybe somebody is the pilot, someone else is an infiltrations person. And you see that a lot in the movies, right? Like Predator had a team, the team in Predator was a team, GI Joe's a team, and everything's sort of explosive. I love action movies, and I really love the super action movies, which was a separate uh, section at Blockbuster. Blockbuster Video, and I know this because I worked at Blockbuster in high school, had an action section where you would get a lot of the Hollywood stuff. You'd get like The Rock and Top Gun and things like that. And then separate to it, but not as large of a section, was one or two shelves of movie that were super action, and about half of it was canon films. So like you'd see a lot of mullets in that section. A movie like Gymkata, Iron Eagle, stuff that was maybe a little lower budget than the Hollywood fare, belongs in the super action section, right? So in the action section, you'd get Face Off. But another John Woo movie that you'd probably get in the super action section is probably Hard Boiled. There's some foreign movies in there. You'd probably also get John Woo's Blackjack, which was the made for TV movie he did with Dolph Lundgren right before he did Hard Target. Hard Target would probably go into super action as well.
No,
But
sure,
by the
sure.
time John Woo gets to Broken Arrow, that goes in the action section. So there was this amorphous kind of weird delineation between low budget, indie, like, how much do you wanna mainline your explosions and your mullets, that
It
separates you
feels
from
like
the
there's also a
super action to the action?
there's also feels like that's a talent level. I don't mean to be dismissive because first
How
of all, like I
dare
love
you,
Dolph
sir?
Lundgren. Yes,
How
I
dare you
know,
make fun of
but when
Lorenzo
you just
Lamas like that?
but when you say
Michael
hard,
Dudikoff is watching this.
when you say hard target, I mean we're talking Jean Claude Van Damme. Then Broken Arrow is John Travolta and
Yeah,
Christian
at the height of
Slater,
John
right?
Travolta's
The height
resurgence,
of
yeah.
John Travolta's come second act, if you will,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
so definitely, I worked at theaters in Westwood in college where we had a lot of canon movies, so I saw too many of those
I love
then
them.
when they were. So reading it, Super Action Man #1, also feeling like obviously there's a big GI Joe thing, and I think you referenced
Love
that.
G.I. Joe.
So it's right. I saw the action figures basically in my head, like, oh yes, I could see that one, especially, and the wrestler. Like, it is amazing to me that wrestling has stayed in fashion so much. Maybe not so much WWE anymore, but then that's obviously like, yes, you got to have a wrestler on the team, even if
You
that
gotta
makes
have
no
a
sense if they're secretly a government agent.
Well, I mean, my younger brother did time in the WWE as a wrestler, and he's still a wrestler. He runs a wrestling school. I spent the last 20 years, 30 years almost in the you know kind of circle, social circle of a lot of pro wrestlers at all the different levels, from indie to WWE, and they're really interesting people. I love them. Obviously, I'm really biased towards my brother Paul, who I thought
Well, thank
was
God.
just
Yeah.
super
Okay.
talented. But but that character specifically, Razorblade, who's an ex kind of American Gladiator type character. That we have National Gladiators in Super Action Man. Razorblade is a character I made up like in '97 on college radio. As we just started getting into storytelling on radio between bands coming into the studio and playing punk music for us. We had a radio show that we would just kind of make each other laugh, thinking of silly characters, and then having actors and people impersonate them. And we were just bored, and we couldn't get people to actually come on the radio, so we would record these kind of pre-recorded, almost radio dramas of things that were happening in the radio station as it was real, and then be like, "We gotta cut to music because this place is falling apart," and, just silly drama stuff. And then by sophomore, junior year, WXPN 88.5 had given us a night like a midnight show on Sundays, and 88.5 covers from, like, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania to Trenton to Baltimore. Like, it's a huge public radio station, and the first thing we did when 88.5 gave us that in midnight to 2 sec section was we started calling bands like Blink-182 to come into the studio and do interviews with us, and we immediately were, like, aiming at Green Day, aiming at all the Weezer, all the bands that we love to do interviews or in studios with us, and I remember the Blink-182 guys at, like, their height. This is, like, Enema of the State had only been out a few months, and they walk in, and Kevin, my co-host, is dressed like a Mexican wrestler, and Travis Travis had only been with the band, like, maybe, at the right before the recording or the beginning of Enema of the State, and he walks in, he takes one look at Kevin dressed like a Mexican wrestler, and he's like, "You guys did this interview without me, peace." Like, this is just weird. Like, these are weirdos. But I remember bands pulling up and being like, "You guys are college kids." And we're like, "Yeah, but we like making loud characters on the radio and working with actors and stuff, and that led to filmmaking for me. But I always just wanted to do broadcasting, which is why Geekscape was something that started in 2006, podcasting since 2005, just out of that. My heroes were David Letterman and Conan O'Brien and
Mhm.
people like that. They were broadcasters, they weren't filmmakers. So, but the filmmaking and the storytelling and the comic book stuff just came out of my love for those mediums, and that all that stuff just started turning me into a really bad broadcaster in radio. Because I could not start making all that crap up and, like, smashing things, having a Foley button and being like, "Oh, no, no, no." It seemed like our radio station exploded every week because somebody like Razorblade came in and these loud characters that slowly have found their way into Super Action Man, which is a character I thought of on Geekscape,
And
in person, like
and it is. I
ambushing
think
people at
you
Comic-Con.
referenced. Yeah, let's get back to Super Action Man a little bit so people
Sure.
know. It is this overt thing, and you and I were talking about how the attitude of the '80s, which was this incredibly super jingoistic. I mean, I don't know if Air Force recruitment went up after Top Gun. I think anecdotally that is the case. And certainly a lot of those canon movies. Good lord, we were so you're taking that attitude, which of course the GI Joe cartoon had to sort of white, and you have this group evil that is like Cobra, but
Mhm.
I recognize a little political satire there as well. And you've got this '80s almost unquestioning '80s attitude, which I hope people get the joke, because there's definitely a reference
Not a
to
joke to me, man. No, I'm kidding, I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
hey, hey,
Ain't a
hey,
joke.
okay,
Hey, what you saying, Derek? I
well,
should have done this interview with Oakley's from the front seat of my truck and been like, "What you saying?
and I would have ended this
You're one of
interview
them people that are gonna
very
go see the
quickly.
Odyssey this weekend, aren't you?"
No, I don't have time. So
I know, no shit.
and you know what?
I'd
I'm
love to see the
60.
Odyssey.
The bladder cannot hold that 3 hours. Anyway,
I'd love to
I've
see it.
already I've already endured Nolan this way. So yeah, I mean, because you have a January 6th reference, and
Yeah.
it's bleeped over in the way that if this was 1984, no, I shouldn't say 84 because that's got a different connotation. If this was
Mhm.
1986, that would have been like on a GI Joe. Go, oh, I mean, it's easy to bleep over. So Super Action Man is for those who are willing to exaggerate and laugh at the exaggeration. Am I right?
Yeah, it's an over the top 80s style action comic that I actually think, you know, it's nonpartisan in its celebration of all the jingoistic American stuff. Like, I am a massive patriot. I love my country. I think that the ideals that it's founded on versus a reality which we've existed for 250 years is an incredible struggle. I think that the
Mm-hmm.
experiment that
Yeah,
is the
it's a
United
wrestle.
States, yeah, I just think that the experiment that is American democracy was so revolutionary at the time and has been imitated in developed and tried by so many other countries in the last 250 years to various levels of success. You got to give the founding fathers credit for that, and I think it's a country that continues and will continue, ideally, hopefully, to strive for those ideals and live by those ideals. And I do think that there's good in all of us. And when I think about Super Action Man, the super team that is made up of these super heroic characters, um, it has to be representative of how diverse America is. I can't, as a left leaning creator, be like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to put some MAGA dude on the team. No, he's gonna go on the team because he's going in our country. Like, we gotta work together, and when it is, like, T minus 0 before the freaking explosives go off and evil takes over the world, that diverse group have to work together,
And you
right?
hope
So,
they can put
like,
it aside, right? Yeah.
that's where the tension comes from, right? They don't, they're diverse on that team, and, the scene in Super Action Man where you find out that, like, the pilot was at January 6th and called it a day of love, and then you have the new character on the team who's black be like, what? What the
Yeah.
hell is happening?" And he's like, "Get me the hell off this plane." They gotta learn to work together by the end of that issue.
Mhm.
Differences or not, so whatever you believe as a reader, the joke is, and I think the drama and the tension is, and ideally, hopefully, the message is that, like, we're kinda stuck together in this American experiment that has been going on 250 years and struggles through it, through a reality that is, like, controlled by various influences up and down the economic spectrum, and,
And that's why you gotta do
um
podcast people, because we're the only ones who can tell you the truth, the real truth.
yeah,
Okay, so sorry.
yeah, so that joke was going in, but that joke came out of a meeting with Hasbro where they were asking, "What should we do with GI Joe?" Because they're taking they're kind of gauging creatives and, like, how their approach would be to different properties, and I tanked the crap out of the GI Joe one just because I was like, because I think Mask is, like, an international cool idea that, like, could work like MI6 and maybe appeal to people in Europe or Asia, and the whole point of these magic major franchises is to sell
Mhm.
internationally, but GI Joe is so American that, like, if you're gonna spend $250 million to make a movie, $200 million to make a movie, you're gonna try and justify that budget somewhere in the P&A, somewhere in Asia or somewhere in Europe, and what if the US isn't something that's really popular right now? And, like, the thing with GI Joe that I said out loud was, half the team looks like they were at January 6th, like, how are you gonna sell that in Europe? And there was an absolute chill that came back in my direction, but I still stand by it, like,
No, no, it's a really good point.
how are you gonna sell a $250 million GI Joe movie with all the Americanism of it, and how are you gonna make that an international blockbuster? Knowing that you have to sell territories in Asia, in Europe, and get people in the seats. How are you gonna un-Americanize the GI Joe team? Should you un-Americanize the GI Joe team? So after that meeting, I was like, "No, I'm gonna go all in as a on the American thing, and just make the book about the ideal that this is a melting pot team, is a pot country, and for better or worse, whoever you want on or off the team, you got to work together and you got to stay positive and keep pushing forward. And that's ideally the whole thing. I mean, I'm a huge patriot. I just want to be able to put an eagle back in my. I just want to put an eagle emoji back in my username on Twitter. That's all I want, really. I hate that it's been co-opted. You know, it's that kind of stuff that I'm expressing in the book, but
Yeah.
hopefully I'm doing it in a very loud, fun, four-colored, funny style that is representative of of those 80s action movies, those cartoons that we loved. It's a celebration. It is a celebration of rah rah USA silliness in a silly way. Like, Iron Eagle is silly, dude. Like, Best of the Best, that stuff is silly, but it's fun. You know what I mean? Those are
And,
comic books.
and let's reference Gymkata. You said that before we
Love
started recording.
Gymkata. And it's the
So
making of Gymkata that they took a gymnast from the Olympic team and made a movie around him, and then wrote a script where, like, yeah, I mean, it ends in on a pommel horse. There's a fountain in the middle of this town square at the end of the
if
movie.
only
The
we could solve
climax, a
international
concrete
conflicts that way.
pommel horse. So this ancient village that doesn't look like it's been advanced since the Middle Ages is where the end of this Gymkata action movie comes, and he finds himself getting chased by this entire village at the end of this movie, and he finds himself in the town square where there's a fountain that is perfectly shaped like a pommel horse, and he starts doing these gymnastics, kicking people in the face. That movie's awesome in its ludicrousy. I love that movie. I mean, that's why I
I
put a character in here that's like an ex-national gladiator who rolls around in a ball, so his weapon's rolling around in a giant ball. That's what he's
I
good
want
at.
that toy. It's one
I
of
want
those
that
things. It's
toy.
like I the toys you're designing. And I should also say, you know, people, if you haven't already gotten that this is parody, I'm not going to call it satire because, you know, it's not. It's parody. That
Mhm.
my favorite joke is very early on at Camp David, that it's almost like an episode of the Waltons, and nobody calls each other by anything other than their country name. So you're, in a
It's a
way,
camp. It's a summer
it's a
camp.
camp, it's a summer camp, and the
Yeah.
president's in a bunk bed going, "Good night,
There's like a
Mr. Poland."
tetherball court.
It
"Good
took
night,
me a
Mr. Poland.
second. It took me a
Good night,
second to process
Czechoslovakia.
what was really
Good night,
happening.
America. Thank you for keeping us safe, America." Yeah, it's all the world
It's so
leaders saying
silly.
goodnight to each other
It's
in
almost
bunk
like the
beds.
way it would have been presented if I were in 7th grade when GI Joe came out. I wasn't.
Wait,
I'm
wait a
old.
minute. That's not the way it
What?
works?
No,
Wait,
I
the world
no,
leaders don't
see,
really go to bunk
no,
beds
see,
together at Camp David?
here,
What
you
kinda
know,
camp is that?
the confession is, I'm old enough that my GI Joes were 12 inches tall with lifelike hair and beard, and so old that they didn't even have kung fu grip yet, you know. So,
Oh, so you didn't even
so
have Eagle Eye yet. There was a GI Joe that you could had
no,
a
I
hollow
know, I know.
scope through the
Yeah,
eye that you could look
Eagle
through. That
Eye,
was
Land
1970s.
Adventure, I remember that. Oh god, I
Mhm.
wanted that so badly. But, by the time that came out, my parents were like, "Another action figure? You're too old for this." I'm like, you know, eh, yeah, and then I got the
Yeah, the
Big
Larry
Jim.
Hama Joes are mine. The Larry Hama Joes are mine. That's
Yeah,
my era of Joes, and then the only connection I have to Big Jim is that they used Big Jim's tiger for Battle Cat and the panther for
yeah.
Skeletor.
I had
You know, they
Torpedo Fist,
repainted
which
them.
in
Yeah.
hindsight, I did not realize the Big Jim Wolfpack Torpedo Fist was an awkward name until years later. But I was proud that I had Torpedo Fist. And I'll put the nerd thing on because this is another commentary here. I got the glasses. Is that in order to make this all global, you have chosen to even exaggerate the name that Hasbro uses globally because it is Action Man in
Yeah, in
in
England,
England.
it's Action Man. In other parts of the country, GI Joe is Action Man, but I'm not about the action. I'm about the super action. I don't get
Yeah.
my movies from the action section of Blockbuster. I get my movies from the super action movie, like, section of
Okay.
Blockbuster. You guys can
So
keep the mainstream stuff. I'm going hardcore on the mullets and explosions. And the boobs, I guess,
and
is
I
the
gotta
other
say,
thing.
you know, David Bowie did not say, "I've got a message for the super action man," partially because it probably wouldn't have scanned. But anyway, so this book, is it still available on Kickstarter, or are you
Yeah,
just going to be okay? So people can go to
we
the
got
Kickstarter campaign.
20 days of the recording of this, and then I ordered the books already. I got the books with me.
Good for
So
you.
if you pick me up one of these, if you pick one of these up at Comic-Con, I'll take whatever money you just paid for this with, and I'll just put it into our Kickstarter. But, I don't like waiting for my rewards. So with my last couple comics for the Hero of the Prophecy comics, my partner George and I ordered them before, like, as the Kickstarter was starting, we put them to print, and then as soon as the Kickstarter ends and the credit cards clear, we start putting them in the mail.
That's
I
fan.
don't like waiting for stuff. I don't like
No, that
surprises. I don't like being like, "Wait, I backed this? That
yeah,
was a
I
year
don't
ago."
like forgetting that I did. Yes, exactly, exactly. So, what booth are you at? Because you do have a
Yeah.
Geekscape booth.
Yeah, 1632. And I think we have a claw machine. Come try the claw machine. If you
I
try the
will. I
I
made you.
don't know how we're gonna fit it. We have a claw machine. I don't
That's
know
a whole
why.
that's a whole other conversation, like how to run a booth. I'm not
But
about that, but
Derek,
yeah,
if you can win issues of the comic in the claw machine, you can win T-shirts, you can win prizes, and we're giving away a big $200 thing from Loop Labs on Saturday where it's really cool. It's this platform where you put like figurines on it. Kids love it because it's like little collectible figures, but they each trigger different DJ loops on this tablet that connects via Bluetooth to like your iPad or iPhone or whatever. And so as you move these characters on the light up tablet that looks like a DJ mat, it plays different loops. So as you move the figures around and configure them, you get different things. And we've got characters in like the funk style, and then we have some 8-bit like characters for that style, and we're gonna give them all away on Saturday. So we have fun partners, we have fun stuff at the booth, man. We have 5 freaking panels and signings all weekend. Like, there's gonna be blood coming out my nose when you see me on Sunday. Or if you see me
I
on
think
Sunday, I'll
that
be dead.
it's quite possible. And so, but it turned Comic Con makes zombies of us all.